you get shelled in the morning, it'd lay off. You get shelled in the evening, afternoon, and it was continual day after day after day. Then I knew, of course, being in intelligence, I knew when they declared Tet, I knew what was going on, but I'd say the first few days nobody really knew what was going on. But
you just knew you were getting hammered more than you usually get.
I mean, you know, them rockets were hitting. You know, we had some hit tents right there, one right next to ours.
So you were if you're over there on the border, is that kind of a mountainous area then? And
I think we weren't actually right into the mountains. We were down in the valley, but
the NVA, were they the ones hitting you, or the VC? You know,
I'm
who
not
knows?
really sure.
Yeah, who knows, right?
I think a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Because they kind of work together.
Right, yeah. And so you guys were down in the valley, were they hitting you from the mountains? Or?
Yeah, they were coming actually they were coming from pretty much more than one side. I mean, they were coming from the north, and they might have been coming from towards Cambodia, but I don't know. I get all turned around over there all directions.
Now you end up spending, I think you said 30 months total.
Altogether, I was over there a year, and then I went home for a month.
Yeah.
And then I went back over for
now
6 months.
You voluntarily extended.
I voluntarily extended.
Why did you extend?
Well, because, you know, I mean, I don't know. In my job, it was interesting. I like I said, I pretty much did my own job. I didn't have a whole lot of people breathing down my neck. I used to, you know, I'd work in the evenings. I'd gather all this information, and then we would brief the infantry leaders, majors or whatever. We would let them know where all their enemy communication was coming from. So I did that. I'd go in and do some briefings too.
So was part of your job to intercept enemy transmissions?
Yeah.
Or sort of what would a typical day of your job, what did that involve?
That was basically, a lot of it was communicating with other companies of our research outfit over there.
Yeah.
And we'd all gather information on where the enemy is located, because where their communications are coming from, and then in turn they could use that to bomb them and stuff like that.
Would you guys be the ones that the LRPs were in contact with, or would you get that info from the LRPs? You know, these long range guys out there.
I think most of our information came from just from the VC and the NVA transmitting. We were locating where their signals.
Oh, so you're intercepting their.
Yeah.
So you must have.
Everything was cryptified. And all our transmissions were cryptified.
Yeah.
There's where they couldn't pick ours up, but we could pick theirs up.
So you must have had. You must have had ARVN guys with you then translating for you, or how did that?
I don't know. I never was on that. My job was basically just to do the intercepting of transmissions. And then we would brief the guys in charge of the infantry, or grunts, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And then they would take their guys. And there was some of them units that had ARVNs, maybe a platoon of ARVNs working with them.
Okay.
You know, but I didn't really.
So you'd get the transmissions, but then pass them on to someone else who would actually do the translating and all that. And yeah. You know, you knew that there was a war going on, but maybe when you go to the Army, it's not real, right? It's not real until you're in it, you know.
Right.
But what did the war mean to you? Like, you know, the day before you get to Vietnam, you know, what did the war mean to you? And then you finish a tour, you volunteer to stay. What did the war mean to you then? I mean, you know, you're there as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old. You must be asking yourself, you know, what's this about? You know, what is this thing about? Do you remember? I mean, what were your thoughts about that?
I think with me, I for one, you know, I probably had a more secure job than a guy that was a grunt right out there on the front lines. You know, there were some of them guys that actually came back over there too, but the majority of them did. But I enjoyed the field I was in. I enjoyed, I worked with all kinds of different radio equipment, receivers, transmitters, and I also even did some hook up with ham operators where I could, myself as well as all my buddies, hook them up to where they could call home or whatever. You know, I enjoyed that part of it. You know, I don't know. You know, the culture over there was different. I was kind of fascinated by the Vietnamese, and so you know, that's why I decided to go back. Back over there for 6 months, and then they kind of make it attractive. Well, we'll give you a 30-day leave if you'd come back over.
Right.
You know? So I think, you know, I was, like you said, I was 19, and you know, I didn't really, in my mind at that time, still didn't feel like I wanted to go to college or anything, and I kind of enjoyed being over there and helping my country, basically, you know. And you know, you hear of all these guys that were heading north and stuff like that. And, you know,
oh, you mean guys in this country going to Canada? So
well, guys,
didn't have to fight.
You know. Matter of fact, it was kind of weird. One of my, you'd get letters, you know, from people here in the States. And one of the pen pals I had, she was a teacher in over around Knoxville, Tennessee, Johnson, Tennessee, I think was where it was at. I can't quite remember. But anyway, she was a school teacher, and her husband was a draft dodger. He went up to Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think.
Did she write about that in her letters?
Yeah, she told me all about it. But anyway, you know, and I didn't get to write to her a whole lot, but we communicated.
Did she indicate in her letter how she felt about her husband going to Canada?
Yeah, I don't really recall.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, but I think maybe so, because she continued writing to me, you know, and she would wait to hear. I could tell in her letters when I did write her, you know, that she was really happy to hear from me. So I think kind of deep down she probably felt guilty. Man, I don't know. But
what about today? If you come across some guy, or you just happen to hear that so-and-so, he was a protester, you know, he was a college kid protester. What goes through your mind
now?
What would go through your mind today?
You know, I can understand, you know, in a way I can understand their situation. And back then, no, I wouldn't have nothing to do with them. But now, you know, hey, you know, you let bygones be bygones, and I don't really know what their reason was for. In one regard, I guess maybe I sympathize with them, Preston, because it turned out that we ended up pulling out of there and didn't gain nothing. Lost a lot of young guys for not for what, you know. I mean, turned out we didn't win.
Yeah.
And we just pulled out of there and ended up the North got what they wanted anyway. They got Saigon.
So on that,
you know,
I'm picking up on that. Some people say, look, the war was never winnable. Some people say the war was winnable. We just didn't fight it correctly. What's your own opinion about that?
Well, yeah, I kind of think it was more politics than anything. You know, I think we could have won the war if we'd went a different avenue. You know, because I mean, we had all the information. We had a leg up on them because we knew where they were most of the time. You know, to me, it would have been very easy to wipe them out. You know.
And you know this because this was part of your job.
Yeah.
You know where the VC are. You know where the NVA are.
I'm just saying. You know.
So you did your year, 30 days back in the States, 6 months, and then you go back a third time. Is that right?
Yeah, I went back
So-
over there after I was in Fort Carson. I went back over in October of '69.
How long were you there this time?
I was there a year, the last
A year
year. And that's
again.
when I was up there. I kind of liked it. I mean, you know, it was a little more adventurous, I guess, because like the first year I was over there, I was pretty well stuck. I didn't do much traveling other than when our unit moved.
Yeah.
But then when I was over there the last year, I was landed in Da Nang. Then I went up to Hue. We had an outfit up there in Hue, and so then
Yeah.
we were assigned with MACV, military
Military
advisory command.
assistance, yeah, a military advisor, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was an advisor with the Vietnamese,
Wow.
and you know, I worked with those guys. I mean, you know, I could go anywhere with them, and I had the patch on my fatigues.
MACV?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
if I got stopped, you know, I'd just tell them I was MACV. And,
Yeah.
and you know, they could check it out if they wanted to.
Sure.
But most of the time, they knew you were.
Yeah.
You know,
And you did the same job all 3 tours.
Well, yeah, but the last year, when I was at fire bases, we were just running radio equipment, and I had a small unit to cryptify our messages back and forth.
Okay.
But I didn't have all the equipment I had the first year and a half I was
I
over
see.
there.
Yeah.
You know, it was a different job,
Yeah.
but basically our job was just to locate where the enemy's at. That's kind of
Yeah.
the whole deal.
You were in Vietnam during Tet, and of course, during Tet, one of the biggest fights of the Tet Offensive of '68 was in Hue. You got to Hue after that.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, you know, in '69, just a year later, Hue is
Let's
a
see, it
year
happened
and a
in
half later.
'68.
Yeah,
I think it happened around February '68, somewhere in there.
right at the end of January, early February
Yeah,
'68.
and it lasted. I don't know how long, but it
About
lasted
3 weeks, something
yeah,
like
at
that.
least.
Yeah.
And
in
so
Hue.
then I was there. Yeah, I'd only been in country about 4 months or so.
When Tet went down.
Yeah, and I was there all the way till October of
Of '68.
yes.
Yeah.
So I went through it and was still there after it for quite a while.
Yeah.
So, but it went off in '68. Well, I didn't go back over there until October of '69. So it was about a year and a
About
half.
a year and a half.
Since Tet,
Yeah.
you know.
So was
But like you said, you know, even in some of the photos I got, you could see where stuff had been, you know, hit some of the temples and stuff like
so
that.
Hue was still pretty beat up a year and a half
Yeah, it was
later.
kind of beat up. I mean, they'd been
Yeah.
doing some rebuilding up there, but
Yeah.
it was pretty beat up. Sometimes I think I'd like to go back over there and see what the country looks like now.
Mm.
And then other times I think
Not so much.
maybe I don't want to.
If you go to Hue, you know, today there's still areas where you can see the bullet holes in the walls
Oh,
of
really?
the Citadel and all that. When you got to Hue, or even before you got to Hue, had you heard about what the NVA did when they were there, all the people they rounded up and the mass killings and the mass burials? Did you know about that at the
Yeah,
time?
I don't. No, if I
stuff
did,
the
I don't
NVA did?
recall a lot.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
there's some things I just don't remember. I think a lot of it it got blocked out years ago, so I don't,
Yeah.
you know, I don't recollect a lot of stuff.
I hear that. Yeah.
I do remember jumping around the fire bases and working with the ARVNs.
Jumping around the fire bases, meaning because artillery's coming in, or?
Well, no, I
or,
mean, I'd go to different ones. I'd go,
Oh,
to,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
where-
okay.
and when I'd go to a fire base, like in some of these photos you got, that would be myself and 2 other, I think I was a sergeant and then maybe like a lieutenant or something.
Yeah.
And there was just 3 of us, and we'd be up there with a company of maybe 100
Yeah.
ARVNs. So we were right with the Vietnamese guys.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was
Yeah.
first time I dropped off at one. I was kind of freaked out for a while, but you know, I don't think that the South Vietnamese, a lot of people didn't trust them, and I can understand, but there was a lot. Them guys were fighting for a cause too. They were fighting for their country, and the guys that I actually were with, you know, I
Yeah.
I felt comfortable around them when I was at these fire bases.
So you,
know.
yeah, you hear different things, but your experience, you basically trusted the South Vietnamese soldiers you were with.
Well, the ones that I was with, and
Yeah.
mostly I was with the ones that I was teaching them communications equipment,
Yeah, yeah.
radio transmissions and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So we're looking at a Chinook here. So just when you look at that photo, what comes to mind? What's the story behind the photo?
Well, I think a lot that one there is they dropping off probably some troops and also supplies,
Yeah.
basically.
Do you remember roughly where in the country that is?
That was it was up north. We weren't too far from the DMZ on that one there.
Okay. So maybe...
But I can't remember the name of the fire base.
Yeah, somewhere in the area of Quezon.
Yeah, yeah, it was in
rock
that area. I'm not
piles,
sure
yeah.
exactly what
Yeah,
location.
that
But
general area.
we had artillery. I think it's a 155 gun there.
Mm.
You can see my antenna sticking up. That little. That was where I.
Is that the
Working on
tall
radio.
thing kind of on the
Yeah,
right
see, it's
there?
kind of that one. There's kind of a round kind of. It's smaller
Yeah.
than the rest
Oh,
of it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you know the problem, and I read about this here a while back, that a radio operator out in the field, his lifespan was like 30 seconds,
Mm.
because they had a target on their back.
They
had
could zero in on your antenna.
Yeah. And
Wow.
even like there, when the first year I was over there, it kind of felt like they knew where our communications area was, because we got rocketed, and so. But you had inside people there. You had Viet Cong in there that were actually ARVNs that worked for the.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So going back to this photo, I mean, a lot of times you'll see photos of like Vietnamese kids, coming up to the fire bases, and did y'all have that? Did y'all have local Vietnamese who'd come up and?
No, not coming up to there.
Not to this one. Okay.
No, like when I was in Way or something, But,
Oh.
or if we were like the first year I was over there, we were, like I said, it was like a tent city, and we were close to a community.
Okay.
Then but most of the time that was off limit. They weren't allowed to come.
They weren't up there.
No.
But it sounds like you did, even though you say you think you could trust the ARVN you work with, there might have been some cases where this ARVN guy's actually working with the VC.
the guys that were out, especially when, like I was telling you earlier, where all deserters over there, that they would have them, they worked hard. They did all the labor to those fire bases. They filled the sandbags, dug the holes.
Yeah.
And then at night they were outside the perimeter, outside the concertina wire, out there with the trip flares, and
These are the ARVN deserters.
I always thought, that's at first, when I was really resentful about our deserters, I thought, well, that's what we ought to do, is bring them over there and put them out in front of us.
Drag them down from Canada and put them outside the wire. Yeah,
But anyway.
Yeah. So, it sounds like even though you generally trusted the ARVN, at least sometimes there's a little bit of a question.
I felt like I had to trust some of them,
Yeah.
And when I was in town with them, I trusted them there.
Yeah.
The fire bases, you were a little more uncomfortable. If you look over to the left, all the way over, see that bear? That bear.
The bear,
spot?
yeah.
Okay, that's the got blowed off, with the Agent Orange. You kind of clean all that up over in there.
So that area got cleared by Agent Orange over there.
Yeah, and then they'll set up fire bases on there or whatever.
I see. Yeah. We'll talk about Agent Orange a little bit more. The question I have right now is, as the days go by, of course you've got your work, but how do you keep yourself occupied, in addition to doing your work? I don't know, did your work fill the day from beginning to end, or did you have, okay. So you didn't have a whole lot of downtime to read and write letters and things like that? Okay, you're pretty busy.
I pretty well stayed focused up there, because it was, like I said, there was only three Americans there, and it took a little while to get comfortable, But then you get to know some of them guys, you know, and even though you might not, you know, trust them totally,
Sure.
you're in their hands.
So what we're looking at here is mostly ARVN then? It's just
Yeah.
you and a couple other Americans?
Yeah.
Wow. You really are in their hands then. You don't
Yeah.
you don't have a choice.
I mean, you know, there would.
Yeah.
But
Wow. What are we looking at here?
that looks like one that was. I think that's one of those that kind of got. You can kind of see parts of the old bunkers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those that probably had a battle on.
Yeah.
That's kind of
right.
that's kind of what I always thought anyway.
So this isn't a place where you were. Is this a place you went by?
I'm not
or?
sure. Yeah, I can't remember. It doesn't look like the place that I was at.
Okay. Now, do you think? I mean, it looks like
Unless,
there.
you know, that could have been. Like
Yeah.
I said, there's a lot of things I don't remember.
Yeah.
And that could have been the one that we built back on. But from the previous photo you had, it didn't look like
Yeah.
the same area.
No. No.
But like I said, I don't
Yeah.
I don't quite remember.
Right. Now, it does look like there's battle damage there, but it's also really cleared out. Is that?
Well, see, that's where they clear them out. They'll come in there and clear them out, and then you'll build on them.
Okay, so that's not Agent Orange right there, probably not.
I'd
That's
say
just...
that it could be as far as how they cleared it.
Oh, okay,
See
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When
yeah.
they come in there and clear it, that's what that Agent Orange was, more of a defoliant, you know, to kill
Right,
stuff.
exactly.
And it could have been.
Wow.
Because look at the stuff, just, you know, like dead
Exactly, yeah.
shrubs and trees and stuff.
The three guys I can see all look Vietnamese.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. That could be an American back there on the right, next, all the way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because heck, a lot of times it was so darn hot on there, we didn't even. You know, I might have a flak jacket on and no shirt.
Right. Yeah.
During the day.
Yeah.
But
hot and humid.
that looks like that could be hell, that could be me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
is this a landing zone, fire base?
yeah, well, they drop us off at this fire base. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They call them LZs. They call them the fire bases.
Yeah. What are we looking at here?
I think they're just kind of a couple gals that they had a university up their way, a college there, and I just assumed they were students.
Sometimes vets would say, you know, you'd see women like this, and sometimes you'd even see kids, but still you'd kind of be wary. You'd still be suspicious because you just don't know who you can trust. Is
exactly. I only go in there with most of the time. I mean, up here in Way, I was with an ARVN.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, would you ever go in there alone?
With a couple other GIs, yeah.
Okay.
But not, you know.
Not by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, I couldn't communicate with them.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. When you were in Way, would that even have been allowed, just to say I'm going to go for a walk by myself?
No, if you weren't with MACV, you couldn't. That was kind of off limits.
So you had to be with someone else.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there was guys that got down there.
Yeah.
But I know when I was there, I was told you couldn't go down there unless you worked with, you were MACV.
Wearing a disabled veteran's hat, right? And part of the disability that you have is related to Agent Orange, is that right?
Yeah, PTSD, heart disease,
Yeah.
and then tinnitus, which is hearing, you know.
From the artillery?
Yeah, I've got hearing aids, but I don't wear them like I should.
Yeah. What has the Veterans Administration identified as being related to Agent Orange for you?
Well, you know, I think altogether they've got like 14, what do they call it, presumptuous diseases. And, you know, I'm just fortunate. I look at it like I'm just fortunate that I don't have cancer or multiple sclerosis, and some of them and some of those, what's that, spinal bifida or something like that?
Spina bifida?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some of that could actually be related. You could have transmitted it to your kids. You know?
Right. You didn't experience any of that?
No.
Yeah.
I'm probably one of the fortunate ones because I don't have a totally disabled or disability-wise, or
Yeah.
but I'm just fortunate that I don't, you know, have some of these disabilities that some of my buddies do.
How long did it take you after coming home from Vietnam? And I mean, you go 3 times, which is 2 times more than the great majority, right? Go, and so you spend 30 months over there. You see a lot of different things, have a lot of different experiences. How long did it take you once you were back in the civilian world to kind of settle back in to the civilian world? And like I say, some vets say they never really have. Other vets say,
And I think in some ways, my answer would be the same.
yeah,
In some ways, you know, but I don't, because I don't think you ever. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you ever get fully back to where you know.
you identify with what some vets say, that you know there's still part of them that's still in Vietnam.
Yeah, but you know, I would think so, because you know, I think about times I was over there, and I probably there's guys that probably still have nightmares and stuff, and I have at times, you know, but I don't know. I mean, but yeah, you never. I agree with it. You never get totally comfortable, you know, or get back to where you were. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How does that show up? Just to give an example, like, so I know a person who grew up in a really tough neighborhood, where they would have drive-by shootings. Okay, so this guy, you know, he lives in a really peaceful, quiet town, but still, especially at night when a car comes up slowly behind him, he'll just still tense up, even though he knows drive-by shootings don't happen around here. He knows that, but still he has that reaction. Yeah, are there certain things that, you know, that kind of do something like that for you when it comes to Vietnam?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, like sometimes, well, where in situations where I get pretty nervous about. There's not a whole lot of people that I probably trust. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean,
Yeah. Right. And of course, the person who hasn't been there would not understand.
So yeah, and I'm definitely not the same. I mean, I get paranoid, you know, about just different situations, you know. And I don't like. I get kind of nervous. I've been to some like concerts and stuff. I'm not comfortable at all until I'm on the way home. You've been over there, you come back different, you know. You just
Sure.
come back different, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you go over there as an 18-year-old.
Wow.
You know.